And good evening, everyone. I'm Prabhu, and Secretary of TAA, currently in the Department of Condensed Matter Physics and Material Science at the Colaba campus of TIFR. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome all the dignitaries, delegates, friends, and our former colleagues, as well as the well-wishers of TIFR for this grand occasion of JRD Tata lecture. Welcome all the alumni members and all the online viewers. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all those who helped us help us this event happen. And I welcome now Professor Jairam Chingulur, our Director TIFR and Patron of TIFR Alumni Association, to say a few words. Professor Ching.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Prabhu. I'll keep my remarks brief. It's a very great pleasure to welcome you all for today afternoon's program. The TIFR Alumni Association, which has organized this program, regularly arranges for us, outstanding events to mark this very special occasion, which is JRD Tata's birth anniversary. And this year is no different. We have a lecture by a very eminent speaker, Professor Ajay Sood, the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. We also have the author of a recent biography of our founder, Dr. Homi Bhabha, Dr. Dadabhoy, with us. And we're also very grateful to have with us today the former chairman of the AEC, Dr. Chidambaram, who has very kindly agreed to grace the occasion and release this book to us here at TIFR. So as we know, being a scientist, particularly at TIFR, it's really more of a calling than a profession. So it's not much of a surprise, but still very gratifying to see the TIFR Alumni Association play such an active role in setting the intellectual and cultural tenure for this institute. The TAA not only organizes public lectures like this one, but also events to mark various significant milestones at TIFR. For example, GS50, which marked 50 years of the graduate school at TIFR, as probably most of you know. TIFR has one of the oldest PhD programs with a graduate school running in the country. And also more recently, Landmarks at 75, an event to commemorate 75 years of TIFR. Both of today's events are of issues which are very close to our heart. Dr. Bhabha was the architect, not only of TIFR, but of a significant fraction of the modern Indian scientific enterprise. And his biography is of interest not only to us, but also to anyone who has an interest in the development of science in modern India. And Professor Sood's lecture is also on a topic of great current relevance, science and sustainability. We look forward to it keenly. So welcome again to what I'm sure will be a very memorable program. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jairam. I now welcome Professor Mayank Vaya, President of TIFR Alumni Association.
Respected members on the dais and friends who have come to listen to these lectures. So TIFR Alumni Association, one of the things that we like to do is to have continuing dialogues on the various aspects of continuity and creativity that goes on in the society. This year, for JRD Tata Memorial Lecture, we thought we will have a discussion with Dr. Sood about the journey from being a scientist to science administration and how does it feel. We also have with us the previous Principal Scientific Advisor of the Prime Minister, Dr. Chidambaram, and it's an honor to have him here. And we are really grateful to him also for coming. We are especially happy here that Dadabhoy is here because we are going to release his book, which is one of the most beautiful books on Homi Bhabha that you can have. If you want to know how Indian science has reached where it has reached today, Homi Bhabha was one of the greats who did that. And we have a wonderful biography of his from Mr. Dadabhoy. Mr. Dr. Vats, I'm very grateful to you for agreeing to grace this occasion and introduce Dadabhoy. They have worked together on this book, so it will be a great experience to learn from them. And as always, the Alumni Association will continue to try and create more such avenues where we have discussions between various creative fields in which people in India excel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vaya. Now, I will introduce Dr. R.K. Vatsa. He is an outstanding scientist of DAE, currently officiating director of DAE, CEBS at Kalina, Mumbai, as well as he's the head of the Public Awareness Division at DAE Secretariat. Prior to that, he was at the Chemistry Division, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai, and he passed his MSc with Physical Chemistry from Delhi University in 1986 and was selected at the BRC Training School. He joined Chemistry Division of BRC and completed his PhD in Chemistry under Professor J.P. Mittal. And he has been visiting scientists to several countries. He has recognized research guide of Mumbai University as well as HBNI. And his interest include laser matter interaction, mass spectroscopy, molecular spectroscopy, reaction kinetics, gas sensors, nanomaterials, and their applications. So he has published more than 200 research papers in highly reputed international journals. He has several awards and honors to his credit, like Bronze Medal of Chemical Research Society of India, Fellow of National Academy of Sciences, Homi J Bhabha Science Technology Award by DAE, Eminent Mass Spectroscopist Award by Indian Society for Mass Spectrometry, and he's been the president of Indian Society for Mass Spectrometry and also president of Indian Chemical Society Mumbai branch. So he's deeply interested in the history of science, and he's the chief editor of the Eminent Science series books on Dr. Bhabha, Marie Curie, Vikram Sarabhai, and Sir C.V. Raman. He will show us some of those books today. And now I request Dr. Vatsa to give the introduction. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Chidambaram sir, respected Professor Sood, Professor Cheglu, Professor Bhaiya, Shri Dadabhoy, other dignitaries of the dais, members of TIFR Alumni Association, faculty of TIFR, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. At the outset, I'm extremely grateful to the organizers for their kind invitation. I feel honored to be part of J.R.D. Tata Memorial Lecture program and release of the book, Homi J Bhabha Alive, authored by Mr Bakhtiar Dadabhoy. It's a privilege for me to introduce my good friend and the author, Mr Dadabhoy. Mr Dadabhoy was born in Sikandrabad, Telangana in 1963. He was educated at Hindu College, Delhi University and Delhi School of Economics. He is author of 9 books, including best-selling J, A Life of J.R.D. Tata, Barons of Banking, Glimpses of Indian Banking History. He has also authored Zubeen Mehta, A Musical Journey. The latter is authorized biography of international music conductor Zubeen Mehta. He has also written the script for Nani the Crusader, a documentary on the life of legal luminary Nani Palkiwala. In his day job, Shri Dadabhoy is an additional member of the Railway Board. He is the senior most and perhaps the only Parsi civil servant in the country. I will now briefly narrate how I got associated with this book. I was introduced to Shri Dadabhoy in June 2021 by a common friend, Shri Sanjay Kumar. Shri Dadabhoy was searching for some material on Dr. Bhabha for his biography book. At that time, we were making a picture book for the 112th birth anniversary of Dr. Bhabha under Eminent Scientist series. We had collected a lot of material and we were able to part away our treasure with Shri Dadabhoy. It is a sweet coincidence that DA picture book on Dr. Bhabha was also released by Chidambaram sir in CC Auditorium in BRC. Then time went by and in January this year, I received a 699 pages draft version of the book. I read it with immense interest and shared my views with Shri Dadabhoy. His style of writing is so lucid, so it gets you engaged in the character and encourages you to keep reading. To get an idea about the Bhagirathi efforts of Shri Dadabhoy, I wish to bring the following to your notice. One often falls short of words when it comes to describe Dr. Bhabha. It is extremely challenging to express in a clear and crisp manner the multiple qualities which were at their best in Dr. Bhabha. The nearest first-order approximate description of Dr. Bhabha is by Shri J.R.D. Tata. Shri Tata said, and I quote, scientist, engineer, master institution builder, and administrator, steeped in humanity, arts, and music, Homi was truly a complete man, unquote. The present book by Shri Dadabhoy, in my opinion, has done complete justice to the complete man of Shri J.R.D. Tata. The book has 36 chapters, giving historically relevant anecdotes with finer details about Dr. Bhabha, his days and experience at Cambridge and IISc, Bangalore, his creation of TIFR, AET, now BRC, and DAE, his deep interest in arts, culture, architecture, and music, his love for trees is well known, his superior administrative skills, and his respect for other subjects. The author has connected the events and characters very well. The book is based on a deep study by the author and contains more than 1,250 references. It answers many questions like why few places in Germany, namely Göttingen, Munich, and Berlin, were meccas of science, why Cavendish Lab in Cambridge was home to so many revolutionary ideas, producing as many as 30 Nobel laureates, why Lord Rutherford did not like chemistry, and he once remarked, all science is either physics or stamp collecting. Those who are interested to know more about Dr. Bhabha will find this book immensely informative and a reference book. In my opinion, it's a collection item on Dr. Bhabha. Before I conclude, I wish to convey best wishes from Dr. A.K. Mohanty, Chairman, Atomic Energy Commission and Secretary DAE, who could not participate in this program due to his prior engagement. Once again, I thank organizers for their kind invitation to be part of J.R.D. Tata Memorial Lecture and release of the book on Dr. Bhabha. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Vatsa. Now, may I request Mr. Dadabhoy to take you words? Okay. Now we will release the book first. Now I request Dr. Chidambaram sir to release the book. Do the honor. Thank you very much. And now I request Mr. Dadabhoy to say a few words about it. Thank you.
Respected Dr. Chidambaram, former AEC chairman and PSA to the Prime Minister, Professor Ajay Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Prime Minister, Dr. J. Chenglur, Director of TIFR, Dr. Mayank Vahia, President of the TIFR Alumni Association, Dr. Vatsa, my good friend, philosopher, guide, savior, ladies and gentlemen. Somewhat alarmed at the size of the book, Mayank Bhai told me politely but firmly that I was not to exceed 10 minutes, and I plan to adhere to the time given to me. I will not stand between you and the main event of the day for long. At the outset, I would like to thank the TIFR Alumni Association for offering to launch the Bhabha biography at this function. In particular, I would like to thank Professor Arun Grover, who started the whole process when he reached out to me via email. Unfortunately, he could not be here with us today due to a medical problem in his family. Many thanks also to Mayank Bhai, who not only readily agreed, but dealt with the minutiae of organizing the event. It is an honor for me to share the stage with luminaries like Dr. Chidambaram and Dr. Ajay Sood, and there could not have been a more fitting occasion for the launch of this biography, given the close connection between J.R.D. Tata and Homi Bhabha. My having written a brief biography of J.R.D. also gives it a certain personal connection. The origins of this book lie in a detailed profile I wrote on Bhabha for my book, Sugar and Milk, Lives of Eminent Parsis, written over 15 years ago. In what is another J.R.D. connection, albeit indirect, the late Rusi Lala, J.R.D.'s official biographer, had read my profile and suggested that at a later stage, I should write Bhabha's biography. The idea had little attraction for me 15 years ago, but life is a funny thing, and here I am today having written a tome on him. Before I wrote that profile on Bhabha, my knowledge of him was limited to the fact that he was a distinguished physicist who pioneered fundamental research on atomic energy in India. At the time, I was only dimly aware of what a fascinatingly diverse man he was, a lover of music, an accomplished painter, and later an avid collector, a violinist, a budding poet, and much else. I also did not know much about Bhabha the man, his loves, his likes, his bond with his parents, his close relationship with a lady, and more. Learning all this, I was surprised to discover that no full-length biography of him had been written until then. One that would attempt to do justice to his important role in Indian science, and more importantly, to the depth and diversity of his intellectual interests. There have been a few books on him, all with undeniable merit, but none that qualify as a full-fledged biography. I decided to supply this deficiency, though I hope that my non-existent scientific credentials has not made it a classic case of overreach. I do not claim to have written anything particularly new, though there may be some trivia or facts scattered throughout the book which are not so well known. Most of the material has been around for decades, and a lot of it is in the public domain as well. The existing books on Bhabha either address only a part of his life and work, or are far too short to do full justice to it. While G. Venkatraman's slim volume, Bhabha and His Magnificent Obsessions, is an excellent book, it is a very brief account of his life. However, Dr. Venkatraman wrote a detailed biography of Sir C.V. Raman, Journey into Light. And I've always wondered why he didn't do for Bhabha what he did for Raman, that is, write a comprehensive story of his life and work. Well, lucky for me that he didn't, because it left the field open for someone like me to try. I have been given to understand that Dr. Venkatraman's biography of Bhabha was launched at this very same venue, and I feel honored that my book also enjoys similar privilege. The value of this book, if any, lies in the fact that I have tried to make it a fairly comprehensive volume on Bhabha. This explains the detailed treatment of the early history of TIFR and the atomic energy program. It also explains its size, something which more than one reviewer has commented on. I would like to believe that most of the important facts about Bhabha are all in one place. However, this should in no way be taken to mean that I consider the biography to be a definitive one. I am sure that many better biographies will be written in the future, those that do justice to his work in the form of mathematical equations and not merely words. But until some scientific luminary bestirs himself, readers will have to rest content with my present humble offering. It would be pointless to talk about Bhabha's scientific contribution to an audience comprised predominantly of scientists, so I will not even try. However, I plan to briefly touch on two aspects in my talk. The first concerns his views on science administration, and the second has to do with Bhabha, the man. As a career bureaucrat for the last 35 years, the relevance of Bhabha had to say with regard to administrative culture made an immediate and strong impression on me. He was very clear that he would not allow the convoluted, inflexible, and dilatory processes associated with the bureaucracy to find a place in his institute. He was highly critical of the system where a file used to be marked to a number of persons who merely signed it without making any contribution whatsoever. How familiar that sounds even today. Bhabha observed that the secretariat system of noting by half-educated clerks was one of the worst features of government and should not be introduced in the institute. He wanted precise notes passing through fewer levels so that decisions could be taken faster. He also abolished the system of peons sitting on stools outside the offices and carrying files from one table to the other. And now to Bhabha the man. It was my intention to portray both Bhabha the scientist and Bhabha the person in my account of his life. During the course of my research, I formed an opinion of him as a person. This is, of course, a personal opinion with which you may or may not agree, but I would like to believe that my assessment is not too wide off the mark. Bhabha was a man who was aware of his special talents, as most gifted people generally are. Certainly, he was very conscious of his own importance. He has often been accused of being haughty and arrogant, and perhaps there is some truth in that assertion. But I believe it was only with people whom he thought needed putting in their place. He loved making the white man wait, was a statement made by a foreign scientist. Unfortunately, as we know, Bhabha was notoriously unpunctual and made everyone wait. There have been accusations of what Subramaniam Chandrasekhar called exaggerated forms of personal prestige. But Bhabha was very kind and considerate to the people he worked with. There are numerous stories of his helping people, assistance which I believe was given without condescension. However, I think that he considered himself a cut above and hence could never develop any particularly warm or close relationships with colleagues or juniors. I may be wrong, but perhaps Professor M.G.K. Menon was an exception. Echoing the views of the majority, a scientist at TIFR said that Bhabha was not a man with whom he felt he had anything in common. As a foreign academic put it, Homi was a distant Alp. One did not presume to climb it. Bhabha did not take kindly to opposition, was not about subduing competition. But as Sir John Cockcroft pointed out, without a certain ruthless arrogance, he would never have achieved what he did, and he did much. Before I conclude, I would like to leave you with a few questions over which to ponder. Did Bhabha do the right thing by centralizing research in one institute, ignoring the universities? Would we have had something of the lines of the proposed National Research Foundation much earlier had he lived longer? How different would India's nuclear program have been if he had lived another 20 years? Perhaps a film on his life on the lines of the recently released Oppenheimer would be a fitting tribute to this great man. Before I end, I would like to gratefully acknowledge the assistance given to me by Dr. K. N. Vyas, former AAC chairman, my friend and colleague Sanjay Kumar, Dr. Rajesh Vatsa, who's here with us today, and Professor Sudipta Mehti of TIFR. This book would not have been possible without their help. In conclusion, I would like to thank Dr. Chidambaram for agreeing to release this book and also congratulate him on the publication of his own memoirs. I am looking forward to him inscribing my copy. And ladies and gentlemen, as far as my Bhabha biography is concerned, even if you don't plan to read the book, please do buy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dadabhoy. Now, I request former AC chairman and PSA, respected Dr. Chidambaram, sir, to say a few words.
Friends on the stage and in the audience, it's a matter of great pleasure for me to release this book on Dr. Homi J Bhabha. As you all know, though he was a theoretical physicist and famous for his work on electron-positron scattering, he could envisage the importance of a nuclear technology program for India. And he thought of building indigenously nuclear reactors in India at a time when we were not even building bicycles of indigenous design. What we have here is an excellent biography of Dr. Homi Bhabha. Of course, there is another very good book on Bhabha by, already mentioned here, by my former DAE colleague. He was also in neutron scattering, Dr. G. Venkatraman, titled Bhabha and His Magnificent Obsessions. But the focus there was more on scientific achievements of Bhabha. The present biography by Mr. Bakhtiar Dadabhoy presents a more comprehensive view of Bhabha's life and is fascinating to read. Dr. Bhabha at the age of 18 went to Cambridge to study physics and started his research career there. And in 1939, when he came to India on a short vacation, he was forced to stay on. He took a vacation and spent some time in the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, which, by the way, is my alma mater. He was fortunately forced to stay on as the Second World War broke out. But this was a blessing for the country, as he later steered the country's scientific destiny. And actually, my first meeting with Bhabha was when I was a PhD student in the Indian Institute of Science. He had visited our lab. I was working then on nuclear magnetic resonance. And after the visit, in those days, we used to put electronics in racks, and before he went, he ran his finger on top of the rack to see if there is any dust there. Fortunately, I had just cleaned up the room a couple of days earlier. Otherwise, he was a very big, he was a stickler for cleanliness. And also, once he got upset when he visited a lab in one of the mod lab buildings, AC was on and the window was open. So he asked everybody, do you want to air condition the whole of Bombay? With a strong sense of humor. There is a famous book by Arthur Koestler. Some of you might have read it. It's called Art of Living. And he talks of two kinds of leaders, the yogi and the commissar. The yogi is the contemplative thinker and commissar is the man of action. I think Dr. Homi J Bhabha was a unique mixture of both. I've mentioned it some of my earlier talks also. And another unique thing about Dr. Bhabha was he created a leadership swarm around him. M.G.K. Menon for TIFR, Ramanna for physics in Bach, Setna for chemical engineering, Brahm Prakash for metallurgy. Very often, when a great leader departs from a scene, the system collapses. But uniquely in the case of Bhabha, though he was killed in a tragic air accident at the young age of 56, the system continued to flourish after his death. Of course, his scientific work is described in this book in easily understandable terms. Bhabha was in UK, Europe, when the quantum revolution took place. There's a book called it. We have a chapter calling it the quantum revolution. There are many other tidbits, like the one about Bhabha. Bhabha convinced his peers, the new particle discovered in cosmic radiation. They called it the mesotron. That's the people who discovered it, Anderson and Edermeyer. He didn't like it because he said it sounds very bad. So he converted it into meson. Meson is the one in the world. Actually, Bhabha's parents had sent him to England for education and engineering. Because the Bhabhas and the Tatas were very close to one another. And Bhabha's parents thought that he would join one of the Tata companies, maybe Tata Steel. But his mind was made up that he would pursue a career in physics. And he brought his parents around to agree to what he wanted to do. He returned to the Indian Institute of Science, and as I said before, planned to return to England actually when the Second World War broke out. And then, of course, he founded the TIFR we are today with the help of Tatas. And later the Atomic Energy Establishment, Trombay, which became Bach after Bhabha's death, was an internationally renowned figure, both as a scientist and as an administrator. A great institution builder. I remember I was sharing the board of governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Just outside the boardroom, there were the busts of Eisenhower and Kurchatov. And I suggested, and Bhabha was also a founder member of the International Atomic Energy Agency, that why not put a bust of Bhabha there? And they're not a voice of dissent. He was so highly respected. And now you find the third bust outside the boardroom of the Board of Governors in the International Atomic Energy Agency is that of Bhabha. He was also very good in bringing leading figures, scientists to India. For example, Dirac came here only because Bhabha requested him to come here. And very often what people do, leaders, people who build institutions, they form groups, then they look for a leader. I want to start this department, that department. Bhabha was exactly the opposite. He found the leader first and then built the group around him. He first found Govind Swarup and then built the group in astrophysics. He first selected Ubaid Siddiqui, then built the group on molecular biology. So this is and of course, same thing I would say of mathematics in India. I think the first leading group in mathematics was established in India and TIFR, led by Chandrasekharan. And also the leading computer group in India here came under came in TIFR under Narasimhan. Because I said before, as the book points out, Bhabha had the unique ability to combine science with politics and private capital with government. So he would easily get around to Nehru and talk to him and get what he wanted and also get it from the Tatas. There have been scientific pioneers in the past before Bhabha, renowned scientists like C.V. Raman, after whom the Science Day has been named. The day announced the discovery of the Raman effect. There has been people, J.C. Bose, Satyendranath Bose, there have been great mathematicians like Srinivasa Ramanujan, after whom the Mathematics Day has been named. Great engineers, Vishweshwaraya, Mokshagundam Vishweshwaraya, after whom the Engineers Day in India is celebrated. And in this galaxy, Bhabha occupies a unique place. And I think unparalleled institution builder. And imagine his self-confidence, not only in himself and in his countrymen, that he thought of building indigenous reactors at that time, as I mentioned. And we were not even building bicycles of indigenous design. There are other fascinating sections of the book about him as a painter, landscape artist. He was a Renaissance man and is compared earlier also with Leonardo da Vinci. You also mentioned that in your book, I think. All this and more you will find in this book. And coming back to him as a founder of the nuclear program, he started the famous statement, there is no power as costly as no power. See, the damage that lack of power can cause is much more than the cost of any power plant that you can build. So it's a matter of great pleasure and privilege for me to have released this book over here. And I'm sure it will be very widely read. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for a very nice introduction. Now I request all the dignitaries to occupy. Thank you. And now we'll come to our main program.